Was massive resistance successful in its aims? To answer the question of whether massive resistance was successful in its aims, we first need to understand what massive resistance actually was. In the 1950s, following the Supreme Court ruling in Brown versus Board of Education, many white leaders in the South, particularly in Virginia, rejected the decision. They labeled their strategy as massive resistance, which included a series of laws and actions aimed at preventing school integration at all costs. The goal was clear: keep black and white students separated in public schools, regardless of federal mandates. Leaders like Senator Harry F. Byrd, Sr., rallied support across the southern states. Virginia passed laws that made it extremely difficult for schools to integrate. These laws included creating a state board to control student assignments and cutting off state funds to any school that attempted to integrate. In some areas, such as Prince Edward County, Virginia, public schools were closed for years rather than allow integration. From a factual standpoint, massive resistance did manage to slow down the process of school integration in the South, especially in Virginia. For a time, it created chaos. Schools closed, students were left without classrooms, and families had to scramble to find alternative education options. Many white families turned to private segregation academies, while black families found their choices limited. The resistance also involved intimidation tactics against black families who tried to challenge segregation, using both legal and social pressures. However, in the long run, massive resistance did not achieve its primary aim of permanently blocking school integration. Courts at both the state and federal levels struck down key parts of the resistance laws. By the early 1960s, the strategy began to collapse under legal and public pressure. Schools that had been closed eventually reopened, and integration started to take place, albeit slowly. The federal government stepped in more forcefully to enforce the Brown decision, leading to the gradual dismantling of segregation in public education. When we think about the 1950s, a decade often remembered for its simplicity and strong community ties, some may view massive resistance as a symbol of local defiance against federal authority. For those who cherished the social order of that time, the resistance could be seen as a brave stand to protect their way of life. The closures of schools and the shift to private education might be recalled as moments of community solidarity against outside pressure. The music, fashion, and small-town atmosphere of the era often overshadow the more troubling aspects of this period in popular memory. Yet, it is essential to separate nostalgia from reality. While many remember the 1950s fondly for its cultural markers, the truth is that massive resistance was a failed attempt to halt progress toward equality. It caused real harm to students and families, both black and white, and ultimately could not stop the changes brought by the civil rights movement. The story of massive resistance illustrates how deeply held social attitudes can clash with legal and moral progress. It also highlights the limits of state power when faced with federal authority and the determination of citizens seeking justice. For those creating content about this era, it presents an opportunity to showcase both the nostalgic elements and the more complex truths of the 1950s, a decade marked by both rock and roll and a rigid resistance to change.